You ever have one of those days where the universe just decides you're going to be the main character in someone else's unmedicated drama? Yeah, me too. And mine involved the theft of something I didn't even know was stealable. It was a perfectly average Tuesday. I just survived another 8 hours in my beige cubicle, and my only goals were to grab something for dinner and get home to my couch. I was in the canned goods aisle, staring at the endless varieties of diced tomatoes like it was the most important decision of my life, when I felt a sharp tap on my shoulder. I turned around, expecting someone asking me to move my cart. Instead, I was face to face with a woman who looked like she'd been sprinting through a hurricane. Her clothes were rumpled, her eyes were wide and darting, and her breath was coming in short, sharp huffs. "Where is it?" she demanded, her voice a low growl. I blinked. "I'm sorry, where is what? The organic crushed tomatoes are one aisle over if that's what you mean." Her eyes narrowed into slits. "Don't play dumb with me," she hissed, her voice getting louder, attracting the attention of a guy trying to choose between pinto and kidney beans. "You took it. My hair. You stole my hair." I instinctively touched my own ponytail. It was, as it had been all day, firmly attached to my head. I looked at her. She had a full head of hair, albeit a bit messy. I was completely, utterly baffled. "Ma'am," I said slowly, trying to sound as non-threatening as possible. "I think there's been a mistake. This is my hair. I grew it myself." This was, apparently, the worst thing I could have said. "Liar," she shrieked, the sound echoing off the linoleum floors. "You're a thief, I saw you. You took it right off the mannequin." The bean shopper was now actively frozen, pretending to be invisible. The whole aisle went quiet. My face was burning. I just wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. "Ma'am, there are no mannequins here. This is a grocery store." "Oh, so now you're calling me crazy," she snarled, taking a step closer and jabbing a finger in my direction. "Of course you'd say that. Is it because I'm a woman? No, I see what it is. It's a race thing, isn't it? You people are all the same, thinking you can just take whatever you want. You're a racist and a thief." The sheer, unadulterated nonsense of it all almost made me laugh, but I was too mortified. I decided my best bet was a tactical retreat. Pasta could wait. "Okay, I'm just going to go now," I said, starting to push my cart away. She darted in front of me, blocking my path. "Oh, no, you don't. You work here. I'm going to have you fired for this. Get your manager." "I don't work here," I said, my voice finally rising in frustration. "That's what all you liars say." Just as I was contemplating abandoning my cart and making a run for it, a man in a store polo shirt appeared. He had the weary, 1,000-yard stare of a retail manager who had seen it all. Let's call him Kevin. "What seems to be the problem here?" Kevin asked in a tone so calm it was almost heroic. The woman launched into her tirade immediately. "This employee stole my hair, refused to give it back, and then called me a racist." Kevin looked at the woman, then at me, standing there with my purse and my own attached to my scalp hair. I could see the cogs turning in his head as he processed the utter insanity of the complaint. He gave me a look that said, "Don't worry, I get at least 2 of these a week." He turned back to the woman. "Ma'am," he said, his voice still level, "this person doesn't work here, and you're causing a disturbance. I need you to please leave the store." "But my hair," she screamed. "You need to leave now," Kevin repeated, taking a half-step forward. He didn't raise his voice, but his tone had a new, steely edge. The woman seemed to finally realize she wasn't going to win. She shot me one last glare that could curdle milk, muttered something about thieving racists, and stormed towards the exit, knocking over a display of paper towels on her way out. The aisle was silent for a moment, and then the bean shopper slowly put a can in his cart and scurried away. Kevin sighed, a sound that carried the weight of 1,000 retail nightmares. "I am so sorry you had to deal with that," he said to me. "Are you okay?" I just nodded, my voice gone. "Yeah, just wow." "Listen, for the trouble, whatever you've got in your cart, take 50% off. It's the least I can do." I thanked him, finished my shopping in a daze, and checked out. As I walked to my car, I couldn't stop replaying it. The sheer conviction in her eyes was the most unsettling part. She truly believed I was a phantom hair thief. I still have no earthly idea what her deal was. Drugs, a mental break, or maybe she was just the final boss of all Karens. All I know is, for the rest of my life, I'll be able to say I was once accused of being a racist, rogue employee, mannequin hair snatcher. And honestly, it's a pretty good story.
Still watching? Dang, you must love internet drama. Smash subscribe. It's cheaper than therapy.
I swear no good deed goes unpunished, and my last trip to Wally World was a masterclass in that lesson. You think you're just doing a quick, decent thing for a stranger, and the next thing you know, you're the villain in their own personal melodrama. So picture this, it's a Tuesday afternoon, which means Wally World is in that weird state of being both half-empty and utterly chaotic. I'm on a mission. In and out, grab some stuff for dinner and get back to my glorious couch. I was probably halfway through my mental checklist when I heard a frail-sounding, "Ahem, young man." I turned around to see a little old lady who I'll call OL. She looked like she could be a stock photo for sweet grandma, complete with silvery hair in a neat bun and one of those floral print cardigans. She was staring up at a high shelf, her hand hovering near a can of what looked like condensed milk. "Excuse me," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I've been trying to get an employee's attention for ages, but they just keep walking right by me." I gave her a sympathetic smile. "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am, but I don't actually work here." She squinted at my plain gray t-shirt and jeans. "Oh," she said, a flicker of disappointment crossing her face. "Well, you're tall." It was a statement, not a question. I'm not even that tall, maybe 510 on a good day, but compared to her, I was a giant. "I know the struggle," I chuckled. "What do you need?" She pointed a dainty finger. "That one's the Eagle brand." Easy enough, I reached up, grabbed the can, and placed it gently in her cart. I expected a simple thank you before we both went on our merry ways. Oh, how naive I was. "Thank you," she said, but there was no warmth in it. It was transactional. "Now I need the diced tomatoes, the organic ones. They're in aisle 6. I sort of blinked at her. Okay, aisle 6 is back that way." I started to turn back to my own cart, but she just stood there looking at me expectantly. "Well," she prodded, "are you going to help me or not?" All right, red flag number 1. I should have just walked away then, but she had that helpless old lady thing down to a science, and I felt like a jerk for even thinking about saying no. "Sure," I sighed, leaving my cart and following her. For the next 10 minutes I became her personal shopper. It was no longer, "Could you please help me reach this?" It was, "Get me that, and I need 2 of these and put this in the cart." She never said please again. I was just a complimentary grocery-grabbing drone. I grabbed her pasta, her cat food, her weirdly specific brand of prune juice. With each item, my patience wore thinner. Finally, she consulted her little paper list and declared, "All right, that's everything." "Great," I said, my relief palpable. "You have a good one, ma'am." I started to make my escape, but a perfectly manicured hand shot out and clamped onto my arm. "Where do you think you're going? You have to help me check out." And that's when she appeared. A woman in her late 40s, dressed in expensive-looking yoga pants and dripping with attitude, stormed over. Let's call her entitled daughter, or ED. "Mother, there you are," she snapped before her eyes landed on me. "Who is this?" "This employee was finally helping me," OL said, her grip on my arm tightening. "But now he's trying to run off before we're done." ED's face twisted into a scowl. "Excuse me, you're just going to abandon my elderly mother in the middle of an aisle? What kind of customer service is that?" I tried to pull my arm away. "Ma'am, I've been telling your mother for the last 20 minutes I don't work here. I was just helping her reach a few things." ED let out a scornful laugh. "Oh, I've heard that one before. Too lazy to do your actual job, is that it? You're wearing a blue shirt, for God's sake. Are you that stupid?" I looked down at my navy blue t-shirt. Navy blue, not the royal blue of a Wally World vest. This is just my shirt, I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. I am a customer, see. Here's my cart with my stuff in it. He's lying, the OL piped up, her voice suddenly strong and indignant. He was so helpful at first and then he got rude. That was it, the escalation was so fast it gave me whiplash. ED puffed out her chest and got right in my face. I want to see your manager, now. People like you are what's wrong with this country. No work ethic. Just lazy, lazy, lazy. She was actually poking me in the chest now. At this point, a crowd was starting to form. A real employee, a tired-looking kid named Kevin, according to his vest, wandered over. Is there a problem here? Yes, ED shrieked, whirling on him. Your employee here is refusing to do his job and was incredibly rude to my mother. Kevin looked at me, then at my t-shirt, then back at the shrieking woman. He sighed the sigh of someone who was paid way too little for this. Ma'am, he doesn't work here. You'd think that would be the end of it. You would be wrong. You're all just covering for each other, ED accused. Unbelievable, I am calling corporate. I'm going to have both of your jobs. At this point, the actual manager, a weary-looking guy named Dave, showed up. He listened to ED's tirade, listened to OL's dramatic retelling of my betrayal, and then looked at me. Sir, did you help this lady get some items from the shelf? Yes, I said, just the first one. Then she demanded I do all her shopping. Dave nodded slowly, a deep, profound exhaustion in his eyes. He turned to the two women. Ma'am, he's a customer. He did you a favor. Now you're harassing him and my staff. I'm going to have to ask you to pay for your items and leave. The daughter looked like she was about to explode, but the mother, realizing they'd lost, just sniffed. Well, I've never been so disrespected in my life, and pushed her cart away in a huff. Dave turned to me, shook his head, and pulled a $25 gift card from his pocket. For the trouble, he said. Sorry about that, we get them in here all the time. So yeah, that's how I tried to help a sweet old lady reach a can of milk and ended up getting screamed at, assaulted, and accused of being a lazy fake employee. All for the low price of a $25 gift card and a story for you guys. No good deed, I'm telling you.
Hey everyone on r/IDontWorkHereLady, Cameron here. I've got a story for you that's a little different from the usual retail or restaurant mishaps. See, I actually live in a nursing home, been here a few years now. It's a wild place full of incredible people, a lot of laughs, and sometimes things get intense. So I'm no professional tech guy, but I've always had a decent knack for computers. You know, enough to figure out why something's running like a dinosaur wading through molasses. The community computer in the main lounge was exactly that, barely usable. The activities manager asked if I could take a look, bless her heart, probably hoping I could work some magic. After a bit of poking around, it was obvious. The thing was absolutely choked with junk files, weird programs, and digital cobwebs. I convinced her to let me just do a full cleanup, promised I wouldn't break anything important, mostly, and settled in. I was deep in the digital trenches, deleting years of accumulated clutter, sitting at the little desk area where the computer was set up. It looked official, I guess, with the computer monitor and a stack of papers I was sorting through. Anyway, I decided to take a quick breather, leaned back in the chair, and pulled out my phone to scroll through some feeds, just unwinding for a second. That's when I saw her, a woman middle-aged, maybe early 50s, rushing towards the desk, pushing an older gentleman in a wheelchair. He looked terrible. His face was pale and drawn, just screwed up in obvious pain. The woman was clearly frantic, eyes darting around, practically vibrating with anxiety. "Excuse me, please, can you help us?" she practically shouted, her voice tight and trembling. "Okay, phone down," instantly. Seeing the old man's face, you could not react. He looked like he was suffering something awful. "Okay, sure, what's going on?" I said, trying to sound calm and helpful. "I mean, I'm a resident, but I'm also just a person, right? If someone's in distress." "My father, he needs surgery right now," she cried, her voice cracking. Tears started pooling in her eyes. "He's been in pain for days. I don't know what to do. He needs to go to the hospital immediately." The desperation was thick in the air. It hit me hard. I started asking her more questions, trying to understand the situation, thinking I could maybe direct her to the nursing station or a supervisor. But the more I tried to get details or explain that she needed to talk to the staff first, the more she seemed to unravel. "But he needs surgery, why aren't you doing anything? Just call the ambulance, get him ready," she was shouting now, her hands fluttering wildly. Then she slammed her palm flat on the counter. It wasn't just frustration, it was escalating into outright panic and aggression. "Ma'am, please, you need to calm down," I tried again, holding up my hands slightly. "I understand you're worried, but I don't work here in a medical capacity. You need to speak to a nurse or a manager, and we can't just send someone for surgery without the doctor's orders. There are procedures." That seemed to just pour gasoline on the fire. Her eyes got wide and unfocused. She started screaming louder, something about me being useless and not caring. She even lunged a little across the counter, trying to grab my arm. This wasn't just upset, this was losing it. I honestly flinched back, shocked. The old man in the chair just sat there, still looking pained, maybe confused by the commotion. Thank God someone must have heard the shouting, because suddenly security was there, along with a couple of nurses. It happened fast. They quickly but firmly stepped between me and the woman, talking to her in low, calm voices that she mostly screamed over. It took a minute, but they managed to gently separate her from the wheelchair and guide her away, still yelling, down the hall. I just stood there, heart pounding, shaking a little. I needed out of that desk area, out of the lounge. I mumbled something to a passing nurse about needing some air and practically bolted outside. Leaning against the railing on the porch, I took deep, shaky breaths. What the hell had just happened? I felt a knot of sadness for the woman. That level of distress was awful to witness, but also a surge of pure adrenaline and confusion from being the target of it. And the poor man, he looked so vulnerable. It wasn't long before one of the staff members pulled me aside quietly. That's when I learned the heartbreaking truth. The woman was a resident, not a visitor. She had advanced dementia, the old man. Not her father at all, just another resident she'd somehow fixated on in her confusion. The whole terrifying outburst was a product of her illness, a vivid, terrifying delusion of her father in agony. Suddenly everything clicked into place, the lack of coherent details, the absolute inability to reason, the sudden, explosive panic. It hit me hard. I felt a pang of not exactly guilt, because how could I have known instantly in that chaos? But maybe sorrow that I hadn't recognized the signs of dementia sooner, that I'd tried to apply logic to a situation where logic didn't exist. It was a powerful, stark reminder of what so many people here are living with every day. That day really stayed with me. You see snippets of dementia here and there when you live in a place like this, but to be directly caught in its grip like that was something else. It made me look at the other residents differently, wonder what battles were going on behind their eyes that no one could see. And as if that wasn't enough emotional weight for one period, my grandmother passed away not long after that incident. It was tough, obviously. Dealing with her decline, the hospital, the loss, it just amplified all those feelings about aging, pain, and the fragility of life that the nursing home incident had stirred up. Everything felt heavy for a while. So yeah, that was one hell of a day at the office, or, my home. It was terrifying and confusing and ultimately incredibly sad and eye-opening. It taught me a lot about just how complex life is for the people in places like this, and how much empathy and understanding it takes. Anyway, thanks for letting me share this one, r/IDontWorkHereLady. A bit of a detour, but sometimes life throws you a curveball even when you're just trying to fix a slow computer. Catch you all later.
This one fits right in with what you just saw.